Welcome to This Day in His Story, created by American Heritage Worldwide. A reminder that every day holds something new to learn. Did you know that the first mention of a camera was recorded over 1,000 years ago in the Book of Optics? Learn that the word obscura is Latin for dark room, and how the principle of projecting an image onto a wall through a tiny hole in a screen evolved to more than 2.1 trillion photos being taken each year around the world.
2.1 trillion. I mean, that is just a staggering, almost incomprehensible number.
It really is. It's hard to even wrap your head around.
Right, and that is the number of digital photos human beings will take this year worldwide.
Yeah, globally, 2.1 trillion.
Like, you just pull your phone out of your pocket, you tap a piece of glass, and boom, the memory is secured. We document our lunches, our commutes, our pets.
And we do it with, absolutely zero friction.
Exactly, zero friction. So, welcome to this custom deep dive, where today we are tracing the evolution and the artistry of the camera. And this is specifically tailored for you in celebration of National Camera Day.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating day to observe because that number, that 2.1 trillion, it represents a level of disposability in our images that is entirely new to the human experience.
Disposability, that's a great word for it.
Right, because when you just tap a screen and capture a perfect high-resolution replica of your reality, it's so easy to forget that getting to this point required centuries of agonizing trial and error.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it crossed multiple scientific disciplines just to get that tap-and-shoot convenience.
We really do take it for granted. Like, we'll snap a dozen photos just to see which one has the optimal lighting, right? And then just delete the rest without a second thought.
Completely. We curate in real time.
Yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting. To understand how we casually capture 2.1 trillion images today, we actually have to jump way back.
Way back.
We have to go back to the Middle Ages to understand how humanity first learned to even perceive, let alone harness, the actual mechanics of light.
And that is the crucial starting point. Because before you can permanently capture an image, you have to understand the fundamental physics of how an image even exists in the physical world.
Right.
And for that, the sources point us back to an Arab physicist named Alhazen.
Alhazen. And we're talking like early 11th century.
Precisely. Between 1011 and 1021, Alhazen recorded his groundbreaking findings in a work called the Book of Optics.
Wow. Over 1,000 years ago.
Yeah. And this text gives us the foundational concept that would eventually, become the modern camera. He detailed the phenomenon of the camera obscura.
Which, just the translation of that term alone is a great light bulb moment. Obscura is simply Latin for dark room.
Exactly. It's literally a dark room. And the principle of the camera obscura relies on a fundamental quirk of how light operates. So imagine you're standing inside a completely darkened room.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
A literal camera obscura. There are no windows, no lamps. Nothing. Now imagine there is a single tiny hole in one of the walls or window coverings.
Just a tiny pinhole.
Right. The light from the intensely bright outside world travels through that tiny pinhole and actually projects onto the opposite interior wall of your darkroom.
But the wild thing is, it's not projecting like a blurry blob of sunlight.
No, not at all.
It's projecting an actual faithful reproduction of the scene outside. Like, it retains the color of the trees, it retains the perspective of the landscape. It's essentially a giant, natural, upside-down movie projector.
Yes. But there is a massive catch to this physics trick.
Right, the image is upside down.
Completely inverted. Upside down and flipped left to right. And that happens because light travels in straight lines.
Okay, wait. Explain the geometry there for a second.
Sure. So if you have a tall tree outside, the light rays reflecting off the very top, leaves travel downward, straight through that pinhole and hit the bottom of your interior wall.
Oh, I see.
And the light bouncing off the trunk at the base of the tree travels upward through the pinhole and hits the top of your wall. So it crosses.
It's just basic geometry.
Exactly. But seeing it happen on a blank wall, it's a profound experience.
I can only imagine. Like, just put yourself in the shoes of a scholar in the Middle Ages, sitting in a dark room and watching the outside world glide across your wall, perfectly rendered but completely upside down.
It sounds like magic.
It really does. But here is my question. If we understood this optical projection back in the 11th century, how did it sit completely dormant for hundreds of years? Like, why couldn't we just freeze it?
What's fascinating here is the massive technological gulf between physics and chemistry.
Okay.
Witnessing a camera obscura is purely optical. You are just observing light doing what light naturally does in a contained space.
Right, it's just physics happening.
Exactly. But the leap required to permanently capture that light, to force that projection to stick to a surface so you can, walk away with it.
That's a whole different ballgame.
It really is. That required a completely different scientific discipline to mature. Physics basically had to wait for chemistry to catch up.
Okay, let's unpack this, because capturing the light temporarily on a wall is essentially a parlor trick if you can't keep it.
Right. It's fleeting.
Yeah, the moment the sun goes down or you open the door to the darkroom, the image just ceases to exist. Making that fleeting projection permanent was the real puzzle.
And that puzzle wasn't cracked until the early 19th century.
Wow, so an 800-year gap?
Yeah, roughly. We jumped to 1816 with a French inventor named Nicéphore Niépce. He is the pioneer who finally bridged that gap between physics and chemistry.
But he didn't call it photography, did he?
No, he didn't use the term photography. He called his process heliography.
Heliography, drawing with the sun. That is so poetic.
It's an incredibly accurate description of the mechanism, really.
Yeah.
Niépce wanted the light itself to burn the image into a physical material.
So how did he do it?
Well, he began experimenting with different substances, trying to find a chemical compound that would physically alter when it was exposed to light rays.
Okay.
He coated plates with these experimental materials, placed them inside a primitive camera box, and just pointed it out his office window.
But the reality of this chemical process is almost unimaginable by today's standards. I mean, to trigger that chemical reaction to get the ambient light to actually etch an image onto the plate took about 8 hours.
8 full hours.
I just want you, the listener, to imagine trying to sit still for a portrait where the exposure takes an entire workday.
You couldn't do it.
Right. You couldn't shift your weight, you couldn't blink, you couldn't scratch your nose for 8 solid hours.
It would be a physical impossibility for a living subject.
Mm-hmm.
Any movement at all would just register as a blur on the plate.
Which completely explains why his very first successful subject was simply the nature and architecture outside his window.
Exactly. Buildings and courtyards are the only things patient enough for an 8-hour exposure.
But honestly, if the very light that creates the image is also what destroys it, wasn't Niépce's experiment basically a failure?
What do you mean?
Well, the tragedy of his early heliographs was that after those 8 agonizing hours, the image wasn't chemically stable. If you looked at it in the light, it would eventually just fade away back into nothingness.
I see what you're saying. It was a massive frustration, absolutely. But I wouldn't call it a failure.
No.
No, because he proved the concept. He proved that it was physically possible to chemically alter a surface using focused projecting light. He just hit a chemical wall regarding permanence.
Right, he couldn't stop the reaction.
Exactly. He hadn't figured out how to fix the reaction to stop it from continuing to develop until the whole thing just turned completely black.
So the foundation is laid, but a fading image isn't really a viable memory-keeping device. We need someone to solve the stabilization problem.
And that falls to his partner, Louis Daguerre.
Ah, the daguerreotype.
You got it. In 1839, Daguerre perfected a refined photographic process that came to be known as the daguerreotype. Daguerre swapped out Niépce's materials for a silver-plated sheet.
Okay.
And the crucial breakthrough wasn't just capturing the image quicker. It was that after the silver-plated sheet was exposed to light, Daguerre treated it with a chemical solution that actually halted the reaction.
He fixed the image. He made it permanent.
Exactly. You could take a daguerreotype out into the bright daylight, and the image wouldn't disappear.
Wow.
That specific invention, fixing the image so it wouldn't fade, that marks the true birth of modern photography as a practical tool.
Right, but practical is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, don't you think?
Fair point, yeah.
Because Daguerre solved the permanence problem, sure, but he did it using rigid, heavy silver plates coated in toxic chemicals.
Very toxic, yeah.
You can't exactly hand a fragile, toxic silver plate to a tourist on vacation. So the entire medium was effectively trapped inside professional studios for decades. Taking a photo required a technician, not just an observer.
Right.
So how do we get this out of the lab and into the hands of normal people?
That is the hurdle of democratization. Like you said, the equipment was heavy, the chemistry was dangerous, and honestly, the cost was astronomical.
It's for the elite.
Exactly.
Yep.
The mechanism had to be simplified. And that brings us to George Eastman in 1885.
Okay, George Eastman.
Eastman revolutionizes the entire medium by shifting from heavy, rigid plates to manufactured, flexible paper film.
Ah, Film.
Yes, and that flexible film is the direct catalyst for the first Kodak camera box.
The shift to flexible film is massive because you can roll paper, which means you can pack multiple exposures into a very small space.
Right, it completely changes the form factor.
And the mechanics of that first Kodak camera box were brilliantly simple. It had a fixed lens, so there was no manual focusing required, and it came preloaded with enough of this new paper film to take exactly 100 pictures.
But the genius of Eastman's model wasn't just the physical camera, it was the infrastructure he built around it.
What do you mean?
Well, when you finished shooting your 100 exposures, the film had to be carefully removed and reloaded in total darkness. But the consumer didn't have to build a darkroom.
Oh, right.
You simply mailed the entire physical camera box back to Kodak. They developed the film, printed your photos, reloaded the camera with a fresh roll, and mailed it all back to you.
It's the original closed ecosystem subscription service. Like, you buy the box, you shoot your 100 shots, and you send it away.
Exactly. It was brilliant business.
But contrast that limitation with our 2.1 trillion digital photos today.
Right.
When you only have 100 shots and you know you're going to have to wait weeks to see them, the deliberation required is immense.
Oh, definitely. Every shot mattered.
You have to actively curate your life story in real time. You certainly don't waste a shot on your lunch.
No, you don't. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that limitation gave the photographs profound value. You really had to think about whether a moment was truly worth capturing.
Right.
But by removing the dangerous chemistry from the user's hands, Eastman made photography accessible to the masses. You didn't need a lab anymore, you just had to push a button.
But waiting weeks for your photos to arrive in the mail, I mean, that creates a new kind of friction. Humanity is impatient. We want to see the memory while the memory is still fresh.
Do. And that desire for immediacy sparks the next massive paradigm shift. In 1948, we see the introduction of the Polaroid camera.
Oh, Polaroids. I love them.
This introduced the concept of the near-instant picture.
There is something undeniably magical about the mechanism of a Polaroid. Like, you take a photo, the machine whirs, a blank square physically slides out into your hand, and you literally watch the image materialize out of the white space right before your eyes.
It completely altered the social dynamic of the medium. The camera transitioned from being a mere recording device into being an event in itself.
Yeah, everybody gathers around.
Exactly. You took a photo, and immediately everyone gathered around to watch it develop. It's no surprise that by the 1960s, driven entirely by that instant gratification, Polaroids became the most popular cameras in the world.
It gave us a taste of instant feedback. And once society had that, there was absolutely no going back to waiting weeks, which leads directly to the fuse being lit for the modern era.
The digital era.
Right. In 1991, Kodak, the very same company that gave us the 100-shot paper film box, introduces the DCS, the digital camera system.
And the DCS fundamentally changed the mechanism of capture. Instead of using paper film or silver plates coated in reactive chemicals, the DCS used an electronic digital sensor.
A sensor instead of film.
Yes, it goes right back to Alhazen's straight lines of light projecting through a lens. But instead of hitting a chemical surface, those light rays hit a microscopic electronic grid.
And that grid measures the intensity of the light and turns it into data. It literally turns light rays into ones and zeros.
Exactly.
And once a photo is just data, it doesn't need to be developed in a lab. It can be viewed instantly on a screen, copied perfectly, and transmitted globally.
It's instantaneous.
And from that 1991 spark, the technology cascaded with brutal speed, shrinking those sensors down until they fit seamlessly into the high-quality smartphones you carry in your pocket today.
It really is an unparalleled technological journey. We conquered the physics, we conquered the chemistry, and then we just digitized the whole process.
It's wild to think about.
But the technology itself is only half the story. A camera, whether it's a giant wooden box from the 1800s or a microchip in your phone, is still just a tool. The real question is, how do you utilize it?
So what does this all mean? Now that you carry a high-quality camera in your pocket, how do you actually use it to create something meaningful?
That's the core question.
Because National Camera Day isn't just a history lesson, it's a celebration of the artistry. And the source material provided some deeply practical tips for you to get out there today and manipulate that light.
And the sources make an excellent point here. Regardless of whether you are a complete novice or a seasoned professional, the mechanics of manipulating light remain exactly the same.
True. The sources suggest starting with the ultimate light source, the sun. specifically trying to photograph a sunrise.
Sunrises are fantastic.
Now, we all know what a sunrise looks like, but the reason it makes for such compelling photography is the rapid shifting of the ambient light. When the sun is breaking over the horizon, the environment is incredibly dynamic.
Very much so.
The light is changing literally by the minute, forcing your camera sensor to constantly reinterpret the shadows and the colors.
It offers a tremendous range of possibilities in a very short window of time. Conversely, the sources also highlight sunsets.
Okay, what's the difference photographically?
Well, sunsets naturally provide incredibly rich colors, and they allow you to capture strong silhouettes with very little effort.
Oh, there's a great mechanical tip from the sources for sunset photography, actually. They say to wait until the sun is incredibly close to the horizon, effectively hiding the harshest part of the sun itself.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah. By doing that, you soften the incoming light rays, which prevents your digital sensor from getting overwhelmed or blown out by pure white light.
It saves the details.
Exactly. It allows the sensor to actually record the subtle oranges and purples in the atmosphere. But beyond timing the sun, let's talk about the mechanics of the camera itself. Let's start with aperture.
Right, so the sources highly recommend that when you are shooting a wide landscape, you should switch your camera into aperture mode to take complete control of the image.
I think aperture confuses a lot of people, but the easiest way to understand it is to think of it like the pupil of your eye.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah, aperture is just a mechanical iris that controls how wide the opening in the lens is. Like if you've ever had trouble reading a sign far away, what do you naturally do? You squint.
Right, you squint to focus.
Exactly. Squinting makes the opening of your eyes smaller, which forces the incoming light into a much narrower, more organized path, and that instantly brings blurry things into sharp focus. The camera lens does the exact same thing.
It really does.
By manually setting a very small aperture, you control the depth of field, ensuring that the flowers 2 feet in front of you and the mountains 5 miles away are all perfectly sharp.
That's a perfect analogy. Another key mechanical element the sources discuss is shutter speed. Specifically when photographing moving water, like a waterfall, they recommend using a very slow shutter speed.
And shutter speed is literally just the amount of time the digital sensor is exposed to the light.
Precisely. If you use a fast shutter speed, say 1,000th of a second, you freeze a single water droplet in midair.
Like it's suspended.
Right. But by drastically slowing that shutter down, leaving the sensor exposed for a full second or two, you are effectively capturing a longer duration of time in a single frame.
Oh, I love that effect.
The stationary rocks in the river remain sharp because they don't move, but the rushing water blurs across the sensor, creating that beautiful, smooth, silky effect.
It's like you're painting with time.
It is.
Now, if you are in a chaotic environment where the lighting is changing faster than you can manually adjust your aperture or your shutter speed, the sources advise relying on your camera's ISO setting, specifically switching it to auto ISO.
And ISO dictates the light sensitivity of your digital sensor.
Right. And the way I think about ISO is like turning up the volume on a faint radio station. If the light is dropping quickly, say the sun just dipped behind a thick cloud, your sensor isn't getting enough light data to make a clear image.
So it gets dark and grainy.
Exactly. By switching to auto ISO, you allow the camera's computer to automatically amplify the sensitivity of the sensor. It boosts the signal of whatever light is available so you don't miss the moment while you're fumbling with settings.
Aperture, shutter speed, and ISO. Understanding the mechanics behind that core triad is what elevates a simple snapshot into a photograph.
But again, we have to ask why we bother. Why learn to manipulate an iris or amplify a digital sensor? Because underneath the physics and the digital grids, there is a profound emotional weight to this technology.
Absolutely.
We are uniquely positioned to document the human experience with a fidelity that Nicéphore Niépce couldn't have even fathomed when he was staring out his window.
The sources anchor this beautifully by highlighting the deeply rewarding nature of looking at old family photographs. Photos are not just data. They are narrative tools. They tell stories.
They freeze a highly specific, unrepeatable moment of the human timeline forever.
And in doing so, they connect you to your heritage. They help you fundamentally understand where you came from.
It's so true.
That is the true power of the camera obscura, realized. Whether you are using auto ISO to grab a quick snapshot of a family reunion, or manually squinting your aperture to capture a generational farm, you're ultimately utilizing this technology to serve a story.
That is the real call to action for you today. Dig out those old physical family albums, share those pictures with your relatives, and, as the sources warmly suggest, be prepared for some incredible stories to surface just by presenting the image.
People love talking about old photos.
They really do. And obviously, when you're taking new photos today, don't forget to smile. But we also have to be smart about preservation. You can, and absolutely should, back up those digital files to a computer for security.
Yes, digital backups are crucial.
The sources strongly recommend uploading them to preservation sites like FamilySearch.org, allowing others in your lineage to find and connect with that shared history.
Because the problem of permanence didn't disappear when we moved away from silver plates.
No, it didn't.
Preserving the image is just as critical today as it was for Daguerre back in 1839. We've just swapped chemical baths for digital servers.
What an unbelievably wild trajectory. I mean, to think that humanity went from Alhazen studying inverted light rays on the wall of a darkroom to Niépce agonizing through an 8-hour exposure only to watch the image tragically fade.
To Kodak mailing physical boxes across the country.
Yes, all the way to you capturing a brilliantly exposed sunset with a supercomputer in your pocket and instantly archiving your family heritage on FamilySearch.org. It is breathtaking when you actually look at the mechanics of how we got here.
It truly is. And looking at that grand sweep of history, this raises an important question.
Oh, what's that?
Well, if Niépce's very first agonizing 8-hour photograph eventually faded away into nothingness, and today we casually generate 2.1 trillion digital photos every single year, how many of those trillions of instant memories are we actively saving and sharing to curate our story? And how many are we simply letting fade away into the digital dark rooms of our pockets, never to be seen again?
Wow. That is exactly the thought you need to take with you today. Think about the thousands of photos on your own phone right now. Are those memories alive and telling your story, or are they just trapped in the digital noise?
It's a real challenge.
It is. So let that challenge inspire you. Get out there today, celebrate National Camera Day, manipulate some light, take a picture of something entirely new, and truly enjoy the ongoing beautiful evolution of the camera. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.
Thank you for joining us for this day in His story. May the lessons of yesterday inspire you to see God's hand today and to play your part in His story now. For more faith-based learning, visit ahsworldwide.org, the homeschool for faith and family.